Zion Williamson is one of the most exciting prospects to enter the NBA in a long time, and it's got nothing to do with his dunks.
Oh!
Okay, it's got something to do with his dunks, but what makes Zion so interesting is the underlying ability those dunks represent. He never misses at the rim, like ever. Zion averaged 22.6 points per game on 68% shooting this season, with a 2-point field goal percentage of 74.7% on 11 attempts per game. In other words, he made 3 of every 4 shots that he took inside the 3-point line. That shouldn't be possible. Players who are that efficient around the basket are typically guys who shoot like 10 times a season. He is the most efficient 20-point per game scorer in the Sports Reference database, which goes back to the 92-93 season. Blake Griffin is number 3 on that list. He shot 65.9% from 2-point range in his final season of college. The difference between Zion and Blake is as big as the difference between Blake and the number 114 player on that list. Now here's where it gets crazy. Zion was a historically dominant player despite being on a poorly constructed team that used him in a role that made little sense for his game. Here's what I mean. His 4 most commonly used types of offensive possessions in college were transition, spotting up off the ball, cutting to the basket, and offensive rebounds. That's not the offensive profile you would expect of a big-time star. The NBA players his profile most resembles are Al-Farouq Aminu and Jonas Jerebko. Don't feel bad if you don't know who those guys are. They are 4th and 5th options on good NBA teams. Their jobs are to get out of the way on offense and take the leftover shots the stars don't get. That was the way Duke used Zion. It would be fair to look at his profile and wonder whether Zion is just a freakish athlete without the skills to be a big-time NBA star. But let's dig a little deeper. Zion was in the 99th percentile of post scorers around the country, the 99th percentile of ball handlers in the pick and roll, the 92nd percentile on dribble handoffs, and the 87th percentile of isolation scorers. He was used so infrequently as a role man in the pick and roll, they didn't even qualify for the NCAA leaderboard on those plays. So what happened? Why did Coach K turn one of the most dominant players in NCAA history into an energy big man? It all goes back to how the Duke roster was set up. There are 353 teams in Division I basketball. They were number 327 in three-point percentage. Here are the three-point percentages from the Duke starting 5. Zion actually shot a higher percentage from 3 than any of them. All running a play for Zion would do is force him to pass the ball to a bad shooter. It was easier for Coach K to run plays for everyone else and then count on Zion to clean up the mess. Put it all together and you're left with 2 facts that are impossible to reconcile. Number 1, Zion had one of the most dominant seasons in NCAA history. And number 2, he will get to showcase his game in the NBA in a way that he couldn't in college. Here's how it should work at the next level. When Zion attacks the rim, there should be 4 3-point shooters around him, which means the defense will either have to let him play one-on-one at the rim or leave one of those shooters open. This is a decision they not have to make in college. Which brings us back to the dunks. Zion is 6'7" and 285 pounds with a 45-inch vertical. He's from Spartanburg, South Carolina. The NBA is lucky that he went to a small private high school that didn't have a football team. Zion should have been playing defensive line at Clemson, not power forward at Duke. But is power forward even his best position? One of the most interesting games of the season happened between Duke and Pittsburgh in mid-January. Why? That was one of 2 games where Trey Jones, the Duke point guard, did not play. Without Jones, Coach K moved Zion to point. Nothing changed in terms of his scoring. He had 25 points on 13 shots. What was different was his passing. He had 7 assists on 2 turnovers. It wasn't that Zion was just handling and passing the ball like a guard. He was controlling the tempo of the game, setting up his teammates, and picking and choosing when to attack. Jones returned the next game, and Zion moved back to power forward. But that game has stuck with me ever since. Zion only averaged 2.1 assists on 2.4 turnovers per game this season, but remember, Duke ran no plays for him, and he had no one to pass the ball to at the 3-point line. So what would it look like if an NBA team put the ball in Zion's hands, let him play in space, and told him to create shots for himself and his teammates? Remember, this is a guy who was in the 99th percentile of ball handlers in the pick and roll. The thing about comparing NBA prospects historically is that there were an entire generation of great players who went straight from high school to the league. We never saw LeBron James in college. What would have happened if an 18-year-old LeBron had been asked to play like Al-Farouq Aminu in college? My guess is we would have seen the most efficient scoring season in NCAA history. Kind of like someone else we know. I mean, can Zion be LeBron? I don't know. But his ceiling is a bigger and faster version of him. That's out there.